Hi everyone, it's Anna Runkle here, also known as the Crappy Childhood Fairy. And as many of you know, I do some coaching for people who are working to recover from childhood PTSD. And a while back, a woman called me for some help recovering from being seriously abandoned in her childhood. And she wanted help specifically around some destructive relationship choices that she was making in her present day life. And just like anybody would, she started by telling me the story of what had happened when she was young. And she told me about some really abusive relationships she'd survived and how she felt, all this had affected her. I mean, yeah, she'd been through some hard stuff, and it was really a miracle that she was on that Zoom call with me, ready to start working on her life. So the first thing I like to talk about in a coaching session is, and this is what I asked her, what was her vision for how she wanted her life to be? And then, what is her day-to-day life like now? These are just basic questions, but they're really effective at defining what coaching is going to be about, because I know we want to focus on helping her move along that line from how it is to how it can be and how she wants it to be. And that's what I do as a coach, is help people get really clear what they want, what some of those milestones are along the path, and then I help them move through small changes and big decisions along the way, from here to there. But here's what happened with this woman who called me. She told me about what had happened to her in the past, and when it came time to tell me how she wanted her life to be over here, she was totally dysregulated and feeling scattered and hopeless. And you know, she didn't sound dysregulated over the phone while she told her story, but I know how I can get when I tell about all the trauma in my past. I know I can be hard for other people to read emotionally in that moment. And I say a bunch of happy talk, and I might sound really strong and resolute, but what's actually going on inside is I'm basically not there. So I'm telling you all this to say that I realized as a coach that I needed to take my own advice and not ask people to talk about what happened to them as some kind of a beginning to a conversation, right? You talk about the past, and then you can't really be real or pay attention or remember anything you talked about. And it's why talk therapy is not always so helpful for people with childhood PTSD. Most of the people who come to my channel or my blog have already done that. They've talked about the past to death maybe, and found that while it was a bit of a relief at first, it often left them more stressed and unhappy than before they started talking. That's because for a lot of people with childhood PTSD, talking about traumatic memories can make our symptoms worse than if we were to do nothing at all. And this is counterintuitive, right? Because first of all, for the last 100 years or so, talking to someone about it has been considered the default thing that you do about being upset about anything. And talking can be crucial to emotional healing. Finally telling someone our secrets or sharing our pain by putting feelings into words, these are important ways that we process hard experiences. And it's how we learn from mistakes and how we transform intense stress into not a looping adrenal scare response, but just a memory. In his book, The Body Keeps the Score, Bessel van der Kolk, who's a professor of psychiatry at Boston University Medical School and a big influence on me, it kind of opened my mind to what childhood PTSD was a few years ago. He's published studies showing that in brain scans of people struggling with trauma, when they're dwelling on terrible memories, it causes marked impairment of the left frontal lobe, with the most diminished brain activity in what's called Broca's area, which governs speech. On the right side of the brain, though, there is a storm of activity. The right hemisphere is where emotions and the autonomic nervous system are regulated, and that's the fight or flight response. And this is not how you want to go through a coaching session or a business meeting or a conversation even, with your emotions in a state of overreaction over here and your cognitive functioning just kind of like shut down over here with an inability to say what you're feeling. Does this sound familiar? So this is why I now encourage coaching clients to write their story to me. And in fact, I encourage everyone to write their fears and resentments twice a day. Writing is free, it's easy to do, you can do it virtually anywhere, and it's incredibly powerful at helping us to restore emotional calm and mental order after intense stress and brain dysregulation. So there was a study from Johns Hopkins University in 2015, and it shows that speaking and writing originate in two very different parts of the brain. So this begins to explain why people get overwhelmed by telling their own stories, can feel a sense of release when they write the same information. There's a professor named James Pennebaker in psychology at the University of Texas at Austin, and he calls this expressive writing. And he's led research that's shown that writing about negative feelings for just 20 minutes a day not only relieves the harsh emotions, but it boosts your immune health right then. And there's a lasting effect. It sort of diminishes over time, but it goes for several months after you stop the writing exercise. So writing about your feelings offers a quick way to get re-regulated, to unstress your mind, and that's why I've made it the cornerstone healing strategy in my online course, which is called Healing Childhood PTSD. You can click on that in a link in the description section below, and you'll also find a link with free access to the writing technique that helps heal regulation that I've used for 25 years. Brain re-regulation is what needs to happen for progress in recovery to really take hold. A person whose brain and nervous system are regulated is in a much better position to benefit from talk therapy or any other approach to treatment. So, if you want to improve your ability to re-regulate, click on those links below, and while you're at it, I hope you'll opt to hit like on this video and subscribe to the Crappy Childhood Fairy channel. Thank you. I will see you again in a few days with another video.